So for the longest time, there's been a handheld system that I've wanted to pick up, and I finally decided to do it. And today we're gonna check it out, and that is the PSP Go. This is the final major revision that Sony did with the PlayStation Portable lineup, and they did quite a few of them, but this was way different than any of the previous ones, going as far as to make this an all-digital system. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So first, let's take a look around the box. Now, the PSP Go came out right at the end of 2009, and then like a year and a half later, in the first half of 2011, it was officially discontinued. It lasted like a year and a half, so there aren't as many of these out there as we have with like the PSP 3000 or PSP 2000. So a little harder to find these ones, especially boxed. But we can see the PSP Go PlayStation Portable, certainly a much different form factor than what we're used to with the PSP. This one had a sliding setup for the front to make it smaller and lighter than the other systems. Now, this appears to, I guess, be Rock Band. They had like a full Rock Band bundle with this, I guess, as a PSN voucher that has probably been used at this time. It did come with 16 gigabytes of onboard storage, which was great because the other PSPs you had to buy like the memory cards for. This, however, pretty much required some onboard storage considering there is no UMD drive in here. And you know, it's interesting to consider that since this was 2009 that Sony was already kind of thinking about removing like the physical media from one of their systems, but the UMD drive itself was, I guess you would say, it just was not as reliable as Sony probably would have liked. It's difficult to put a spinning disc inside of a handheld system since it's moving around so much. Cartridges or cards, as like the Vita even used, was probably the way to go overall. On this side, we have the model number, the PSP N1001. This is the piano black version. On this side, we have our barcodes as well as any logos for like the M2, memory stick, USB, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi certified. On this side, we do have some advertisement kind of going over what this system has to offer. It's smaller, lighter, and with 16 gigabytes of internal system storage for all your downloads. The PSP Go system is now disc-free and even more portable. I do like that they are trying to play up the idea of removing the option for physical media as a positive thing, but there we go. And then on the back, just a bunch of fine print. Opening up the box here, we do have all of our cables up here, which is mostly a bundle of power cables and the PSP Go itself. I did pick this up from eBay. Obviously, it's been used, but it does look like the PSP Go itself. Just looking at the front here, minor scratching, looks pretty good. The one issue I have is that the back is glossy as well. I would have preferred this just be a matte black finish. And if you get like the all white model, I have noticed that the back will start to discolor, especially these parts here. This is like kind of a rubberized texture, I guess, so that if you have it on a table, yeah, it doesn't move around very easily. But those came as like a white, and they very quickly turned to tan on that all white model. Now, I mentioned a bunch of power cords, and I wasn't kidding. We have a brick as well as the power cable with the new multi-connector they decided to incorporate. Unfortunately, they removed the USB port that we had on the original PSP that ran all the way up through the PSP 3000 in favor of this connector that then runs to USB. This runs to our power brick here, which then runs to the wall through your typical connector. It looks like it's kind of like that standard like infinity style cable there. But the idea was if they go to this multi-connector, they could also incorporate audio and video. In fact, there is a dock you can buy, and I think it's like $200 on eBay right now, but it is something you can place the PSP Go into and then run your audio video cables to your TV, and you can even sync up a controller to this. So yeah, I guess technically Sony did create like a little hybrid system back in like 2009. So this is pretty cool. We do have our paperwork here with the full manual and the plastic, as well as, I guess, a poster that just goes over how to do everything. So the biggest part of this obviously, is that it is only online. So you need an internet connection to play these games. You have to buy the games first of all. You can't just pop a disc into it. So it looks like they decided to include a poster that has like an entire flow chart on how to connect to the internet, sign in to the network, sign up, and then buy your games. All right, so let's turn this PSP Go on for the first time, since it probably will need to be set up. Now, looking around the device, we obviously have the full screen here. We have the PlayStation button, as well as 2 front-facing speakers. We have an LED here for Bluetooth, and then 1 for wireless LAN. On the side, we have our power, sleep, and hold switch, so you can push that down, and I guess none of the buttons will work then if you're just listening to music on it. We have our multi-connector down here that we would use to charge or do audio-visual out. We also have our headphone jack here. On the top, we have our volume rocker. We have a logo here for, I guess, music. I don't know if that's mute. Then we have our brightness button. You just press that, you can cycle through all the different brightness levels. We have L and R here. And to get to your controls, you have to flip this up, and then you'll have your D-pad as well as the joystick, start, select, and then our typical buttons here for PlayStation. Very similar, by the way, to the Xperia Play that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. This is basically the template that they decided to use for that Xperia Play, as this did come out first. Oh, we do also have some games on here already. Oh, look, Patapon 2. All right, that's a really fun game. That's the demo, it looks like. I guess this is just Gran Turismo. So I do remember some of these PSP Go's came with games on it, and I think Sony even played around with the idea of including more games, because the PSP Go wasn't exactly flying off store shelves back in the day when Sony was trying to sell these things. So I guess this one is Gran Turismo bundle that they had. So I guess we can check that out real quick. I guess while that's loading up, we can talk a bit about the form factor. I like the idea of Sony attempting to make it smaller and more portable. I do believe the best way they could have done that, though, is to go to the clamshell design, but I know Sony was trying to more or less make it as sleek looking as possible, and the sliding mechanic is cool. However, I do know that there is an issue with it, specifically the Xperia Play, and that, of course, carried over with this. That being the cable between the two halves would start to degrade over time as it's being opened and closed, which would lead to a top screen that was not functioning correctly. Also, with this control setup, you do bring your hands and thumbs and everything closer together, whereas with the PSP, it was more spread apart. So you may have a harder time with this one if you have larger hands, but also this joystick is just in a very odd position because you have to reach kind of across to get to that. I think the D-pad is fine. It's still a solid D-pad. Same with the standard circle, triangle, square, all of that. Start and select, also in a strange spot. Basically just these two right here. Not the best when it comes to placement, although I guess there's nowhere else to really put them. I remember when Gran Turismo came out on the PSP, it was legitimately impressive. Mostly because we had been playing it on the PS2 and the PS3, and it was graphically impressive there, but then they took it and put it on this little handheld system that you could carry around with you, and it was like, wow, this little system can play a Gran Turismo game, like a full-fledged one, not like some cell phone looking one. This was an actual Gran Turismo game that they got on the PSP. It was pretty impressive. It is pretty funny to look through the PSP and all the extra things they had, like Skype, for example. So I guess you could call people here. I never used Skype on the PSP. I guess let me know if you did. Of course, you had Remote Play, which was really cool to have that feature for your PS3. And looks like an internet radio RSS channel, a full web browser, and with the PSP Go specifically, I already mentioned it, but they did add the ability to sync up a PlayStation 3 controller and use it. That's right, that means you don't have to use the D-pad or the buttons and joysticks, they're just a little too close together. You could grab your DualShock 3 or your 6-axis and sync it up to this little system, and if you had the dock, you could then play it on your TV. So I figure we'll go ahead, do that now, and show you how easy the process is. First, though, we're gonna need our PlayStation 3. See, for some reason, Sony thought it'd be a good idea to add a bunch of extra unnecessary steps to syncing this controller to this PSP. You need a PlayStation 3, and in order to go the intended route that Sony set up here, you have to have both connected and allow the PS3 to make the connection. So I have the 6-axis controller here, plugged in. I have the PSP Go plugged in. You go to the Bluetooth settings, you wanna register a new device, at which point it will load and it will work to scan for register a PS3 system controller. So we'll do that. You'll need the following 2 items: PS3 system controller, PS3 system, 2 USB cables. Okay. Turn on the PS3 system controller using USB cable. If already connected, disconnect the USB cable and then connect again. So unplug. We'll plug it back in. There we go. All right, disconnect the USB cable that connect the controller in this system to the PS3 system. After disconnecting, press the PlayStation button on the controller. Okay, so we have the 6-axis now connected to the PSP Go. See, that wasn't so bad. Now, since it's released, there is a program you can get on your PC to make that connection as well. It was just really funny that the way that Sony appears to have come up with was you got to use a PlayStation 3, at least from what I've seen, in order to make the connection. Also, something else to note, when you have the PS3 controller synced up to it, you go to close it, it does not bring up that watch menu. So if you're done using your PSP Go, most time, you'd slide it closed, it would bring up a watch face. But with the PS3 controller synced up, it does not do that. So I guess you get one of those clips that sits around the PS3 controller and then just sort of holds this up here. Here's the watch face animation, by the way. And if you have it set January 1st, like I did, because I just accepted through it, you get the little Happy New Year greeting there. But there's our little watch face that'll pop up. So the biggest reason that people are buying these now is because this is probably one of the better PSPs to hack and soft mod and do all kinds of stuff with. The 16 gigabytes of onboard storage, along with the addition of expanded memory through the M2 slot on the side, is a nice thing to have. And of course, you have access to just an overall smaller and lighter system that has kind of that multi-port on the bottom with audio video out using that dock, or just cables that you can get. There are a lot of options to this. The one issue though, obviously, is that Sony did make a lot of cutbacks with this system when they did things like remove the ability to use any UMDs that you have, as well as a removable battery, which is gonna lead us into removing the back here. It looks like just a couple Phillips head screws. I've only ever had to work on a couple of these, mostly because it didn't really sell that well. Like I said, it was only around for 2 years at the most, maybe. But I would occasionally see them come in, and a lot of times it was either the battery, there was some issue with it where it had even swollen, probably because of poor conditions, let's be honest, or the cable was degrading over time because of the sliding effect that would pinch or even cut that cable. We also have 2 Phillips head screws at the top, which after removing those screws, the backing just pops right off of here, and we can see our battery and a warranty sticker that looks like Sony has set up just to make sure people aren't tampering with it. Let's go ahead and get rid of that warranty sticker. Doesn't really serve much of a purpose now. But the good news here is if your battery does go bad, it's pretty easy to get to. You have 6 screws, the warranty sticker, and then this just sort of pops right off like that. The other nice thing about the PSP Go is everything is right here in front of us. In fact, without removing anything else other than this battery, we can even check in on the integrity of the cable that's running down and around up to that top part where the screen is. You can see it kind of moving as I slide this around, and that would obviously look kind of ripped up or damaged if it was having a problem. But you can see they have like this window sort of set up where there's nothing there for the cable to rub against. However, when this is all the way up, there is kind of some metal here, and I have seen this cable get caught at times, depending on how much is open and closed or how violently it's open and closed. I'm sure there are plenty of times where this device kind of gets slammed shut, whether it's anger or just quickly not even thinking about it, just go to slam it shut. And that is something that the cable has run into before because I've had to replace these top screens. Most of the time, you would just order this entire top part as it is kind of sealed. You can open these up, but at times you'll have like dust or dirt or other things get in there, and the screen that they're using is pretty fragile on top. Now, something else I liked about the PSP Go is that a lot of the parts are modular, specifically the thumbstick, which is right here. Again, very easy to get to after the back comes off, as we just have to remove kind of this bottom plastic piece. You can see a little screw here, but this does just pop off, and then this thumbstick just plugs in right there. Very easy to change out. And then directly next to it is our headphone jack. And I always get annoyed when headphone jacks are soldered to the motherboard because I would see so many like earbud, like the the point just kind of get broken off into the headphone jack for all different types of systems, laptops, phones. If it is modular like this, it makes it significantly easier to change out. I went ahead and quickly removed all of the covers just covering up the different chips, and there are quite a few of them. The main ones, we have our chip from Sony here. They were able to pretty much build everything in, specifically with the PSP line, into one chip here. But then we have things like our Samsung memory, that being the 16 gigabytes of onboard storage. That was another big advantage for the PSP Go, is at the time with these handheld devices, they weren't powerful enough to require active cooling, this or the DS. So because they eliminated that UMD, the PSP Go was just silent. It didn't have that UMD drive that was spinning up and the laser reading back and forth, trying to seek information during a load screen, which would make some pretty bad grinding noises at times. It was very noticeable. So to have the 16 gigabytes of memory on the PSP Go as the default did help with faster loading and just an overall quieter experience. And if you had already gone all digital with your PSP and not even really been using UMDs, yeah, you're probably looking at upgrading to this because you've already stepped away from the physical media for handhelds. And while Sony did attempt to leave physical media and the UMD behind with this revision, they did go back to it with the Vita using game cartridges instead, which makes a lot more sense. I like the idea of Sony at least trying something with the UMD and trying to get gigabytes of data at times onto a disc that would really be able to travel with you with a handheld device, but it was pretty clear the game cartridge was the way to go. And while the PSP Go didn't really work out for Sony overall, as it was done a year and a half later really, it was still a pretty cool piece of Sony's history, especially when it comes to their handheld lineup with the PSP, this being the final release really for that system before they decided to move on to the Vita. But let me know what you guys think about the PSP Go if you have one now or thinking about getting one. And I'm sure a lot of people do pick these up for the soft mod scene, which seems like this is set up really well for. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.